talk about just a couple basic things that you need to know. I've already mentioned some of it, looking up at the vocabulary. So your synthetic division, that's just a shorthand version of doing long division. The factor theorem and remainder theorem. We're going to talk about that next class. Actually, those two things are the main things we're going to talk about. I already hinted at the factor theorem with you last class whenever I handed out your homework. The requirements that needs to be met for you to do synthetic division, and I've already mentioned these. The divisor must be a linear factor, right? Or that has a degree of 1. The x cannot have a coefficient. It has to be a coefficient of 1. It has to be x plus or minus a number. It can't be 2x plus 3 or 3x minus something. Okay, that x cannot have a coefficient in front of it. As long as it meets those two requirements, you can do synthetic. All right, so I noticed as I was walking around, some of you were writing the example that I was doing right here, which is fine. You might kind of section off that first page a little bit, because we're going to go through both these examples on this front page. Okay, so hopefully you still have enough room. You might just split down that bottom part, do one example here and one example here. You should have plenty of room. So I'm going to walk through these. I'm going to go through these steps a little bit slower than I did on the first example so that we can go through this. So your dividend, it has to be in standard form, which it is. Next, you're going to copy the coefficient from terms in descending order. You're going to use 0 for missing terms. So that's very similar to long division, just that placeholder. So if you don't have a degree, remember, kind of like long division, it had to go in descending order. If you're missing a degree, you have to put 0 in there. This one is not, so I can go ahead and write all these numbers in. So I've got 3, 17, 6, and negative 20. Step 3 says I'm going to use the root associated with the factor. So if I've got x plus 5, I'm going to be working with negative 5 right there. Another common mistake on this is a lot of people will just put 5 right there instead of negative 5. You've got to solve that linear factor and put the solution to that right there. Step 4. Again, this is the thing that a lot of people struggle with, because they can do all that, but then they mess up the first step. And it's probably the easiest one. You're just going to bring that first coefficient down and write it underneath that line.
So if the x plus 5 was x minus 5, would it be?
Then it would be positive 5. And now you just start the process of multiplying and adding. So negative, and you're always going to multiply by whatever number you got here. So the negative 5. Negative 5 times 3 is what? Negative 15. Now, even though it says to add, all you're doing whatever this sign says. Because 17 plus negative 5 is going to give you what 17 minus 15 would be. Okay? So 17 minus 15 is what? 2. Why do you look confused, Trent? Negative 5 times 2 is what? Negative 10. 6 minus 10 is what? Negative 4. Negative 5 times negative 4 is what? Positive 20. So is this one going to have a remainder? No, because negative 20 plus 20 is 0. The degree of my quotient on this problem is going to be what? 2. So I've got 3x squared plus 2x minus 4. So first thing I'm going to do, and do not forget to do this, the very first thing before you write anything, look at your dividend, make sure that you're not missing a term. Again, this one is not missing a term, so the coefficients I got there are 2, -3, and -9. And then my divisor, that's going to give me 3 right there. Don't mess up the first step, just drop the 2 down. 3 times 2 is 6. -3 plus 6 is +3. 3 times 3 is 9. -9 plus 9 is 0. The degree of this quotient is going to be what? 1. So it's just 2x plus 3. Make sure on that first one that you put 2 zeros in there for placeholders.
I don't get the multiplying thing. You say you put the number down and then you keep multiplying it.
Alright, real quick, I've had a couple people ask me about what the degree of the quotient is going to be. So I'm going to explain it a little bit differently. Now you can always know that it's just going to be 1 less than the dividend. So if you're good on that already, awesome. Alright, but if not, kind of look up here. I'm just going to explain it a different way. Everything in here is all coefficients. Alright, so if you get your quotient, you can fill it in from the back, from the end to the beginning. Okay? Because that last number is always going to be the number at the end of the equation. And then you just build up from there. So if that last one is 1, I know my equation is going to be +1. My next one, that's going to be my first x term. So I would have -1x. And then that one is going to be 1 up from there, which would be x squared. Alright, so you can either know that the quotient is it's going to be 1 less than the dividend, or you just kind of fill in the exponents from the back to the beginning. Either way. If you've already gone down to the bottom 2 and you're getting remainders on that, then you may be doing it correctly. You will get remainders on the bottom 2, but
So, yeah.
there's the problem for C. Please do not just be copying this down. Make sure that you're just checking your answers that you got with what is up on the screen. So there's the final answer on the last one. So I want you checking to make sure that you got that on the last.